So now we know that Beerus is actively looking for someone to replace him as a god of destruction for Universe 7. He is looking to retire, and we have theorized together that the reason this is the case is because there is someone that has now surpassed him in strength, and when a god of destruction has a mortal that passes him in strength, he must relinquish his title and give it to somebody stronger, similar to Belmont, who has named his successor in Topo and has given up his title of god of destruction because Jiren is in his universe. But what happens after a god of destruction retires? Where do they go? What do they do? And are they still essentially the same? This is something that everyone's been talking about and asking since the ending of the superhero arc, since Beerus has been looking for someone to replace him. And in today's video, I have your answer. After much digging, much investigation, and a lot of studying and going through the material, I finally have the information needed to explain what is going to happen to Beerus after he retires, and where is he gonna go, what's he gonna do. So if you already think you know the answer before you watch the video, let me know in the comment section below what happens to a god of destruction or a deity after they retire. Let me know in the comment section below and see if you got it right. Watch the entire video, see if you got it correct, because I'm telling you right now, more than likely you have not thought this through the way you think you have, and I have the answer for you here today because it's someone that's kind of in our face that explains this situation perfectly. Before I begin, huge shout out to the Black Squad, everybody who's been here since day one, who comments on every single video and likes the video. You guys are number one. Thank you so much. We will 100% reach the 500k mortal plan together. Let's begin. So before we know exactly where a god of destruction is going to end up after they retire, we need to know where they came from, what they did before, and what their story was before they became a god of destruction. And not surprising, Beerus is one of the main characters of Dragon Ball Super, but we don't know anything about him. And the things that we do know about him literally are just more questions, because we know he is the only god of destruction that has a brother that is another god of destruction. So we have two relatives here, and we don't know where they came from. We don't know what they did before, but we have some ideas as to what their planets could look like. So this is Beerus's planet, the planet that he gets as a god of destruction. It is just an upside down triangle with a tree on top. That's basically all it is. And at first glance, there really isn't much we can learn from his original planet just based on this planet. But when I look at this planet, I see remnants of what his original planet would look like. And I believe that gods of destructions either get to choose what their god of destruction planet looks like, or their god of destruction planet looks very similar to their home planet. Look at Belmont's planet. Belmont's planet is essentially just a circus. That's all it is. It is a circus. It's got circus tents, and it really fits his aesthetic. And you'll find that with all the gods of destruction planets, they're very similar to what the aesthetic is for their god of destruction. But for me to drive home the point of this planet being what Beerus's home planet essentially looks like, we need to see what Champa's planet looks like. And honestly, we don't really get much of Champa's planet in either the manga or the anime. We get this scene where he gives Kale and Caulifla the Potara earrings, and we get this very dark planet. At least outside it looks like it's dark, and it has huge open window architecture. That's essentially the best I can describe it. And looking at this planet, it looks very different than the planet that Beerus is on. But these guys are brothers, they come from the same planet. How could this be the case? Well, I think that we're just looking at it with missing information, because this right here is what Beerus's planet looks like at night in the anime. And at night, The color scheme and everything looks very similar to what Champa's planet actually looks like. And I'll take it even a step further, something you guys have never seen. Look at this. This is the concept art for Beerus' original planet, which looks really cool, honestly. It looks pretty straight, but if you look at this planet, it is essentially a jungle similar to what Beerus' planet eventually becomes, but it is surrounded by darkness similar to Champa's planet. And look at the tower. The tower has huge open windows similar to Champa's planet. So in my opinion, I think that they took this design and split it between both planets. But since we don't get to see much of Champa's planet, we really just get to see more day than night on Beerus' planet, and that's why it doesn't look very similar. So we have now a taste of what the Gods of Destruction planets look like, but it is unclear which universe Champa and Beerus come from. They have to come from one universe, and it's either Universe 7 or Universe 6. Either of those two, it wouldn't make sense for them to be from any other universe. So now that we have the home planets, we have to get a taste of what life they could have had beforehand and how a God of Destruction deals with their past. And weirdly enough, the only God of Destruction whose past we know of is Belmod. Toyotaro gave us this sketch showing Belmod quitting the Pride Troopers. Belmod left the Pride Troopers because he did not like Gichin's ideas about teamwork, and in all honesty, it looks like in the picture, this is more likely Gichin. Gichin is the guy who sacrificed himself for Jiren, Jiren's master. He sacrificed himself and got killed by a demon. That's how the manga shows it. And being killed by a demon means that Margarita could not revive him, so he had to remain passed away, which is part of why Jiren joins the Tournament of Power, because he wants to get the Super Dragon Balls to revive Gichin, because he feels like he is responsible for Gichin's death because Gichin sacrificed his life to save him when he was a kid. And so Belmod left the Pride Troopers and became the God of Destruction because he was the strongest at the time. And once he became a God of Destruction, he was met with the death of Gichin to the hands of the demon. Once that happened, he took the Pride Troopers underneath his wing and basically created the most fearsome fighting force in Universe 11. And he talks about it during the Tournament of Power. He says, by fighting together, you're able to draw out even more power than you were ever able to alone. As much as I hate to admit it, it's exactly as Gichin said. It can't be helped. I'll tell you the reason he never acknowledged Jiren. Gichin was the one that put the lone warrior Jiren into the Pride Troopers, and do you know why that was? Wasn't it so he could develop his strength? No, that's not what Gichin was trying to teach him. Then what was he trying to teach? Teamwork. Jiren used that incredible strength and the sense of justice imparted to him by his master to maintain law and order in our universe, but he has a tendency to take on the burden alone. To put it in a less charitable way, he doesn't trust anyone but himself. Still, he'll never know when things will go bad and he'll have to rely on others. I never expected to hear that from you, Belmod. Don't be ridiculous, I'm just parroting Gichin. As a God of Destruction, I would never subscribe to such weak thinking. And yet, you two were friends. A long time ago, maybe. Looks like Jiren never learned that particular lesson. Apparently Gichin wanted him to figure it out on his own, that idiot leaving things undone and then kicking the bucket. And those killed by demons can be revived by our power, of course. Yep, I still have faith though, that Jiren can handle this alone. So that was a lot to take in, because Belmod is essentially saying what Jiren's philosophy is, and Gichin tried to persuade him otherwise and try to teach him otherwise. And yet Belmod and Jiren are almost the exact same. They're lone warriors. They do not like to fight with teamwork. They don't like to do things together with other people. They like to achieve victory all on their own and rely only on their own strength. But even though Belmod believed this, he fostered the teamwork in the Pride Troopers so that they would be a singular fighting force. But he still had so much hope in Jiren's strength. That's why he only cared if Jiren stayed on the field, because then he knew that they would win. What does all this have to do with Beerus? Well, Belmont is really the only god of destruction that we have information about his past, his connection with the mortals that he had, his camaraderie with them. He was part of the team of the Pride Troopers. Now he essentially sponsors them, and he is very close to Jiren. So we know so much about Belmont's backstory, and Belmont is retiring, giving the spot up to Toppo. It is not impossible to believe that after thousands of years of sponsoring the Pride Troopers, that Belmont would take his rightful spot as the leader of the Pride Troopers, essentially switching spots with Toppo, who will become the next god of destruction, because now Belmont has understood the benefit of teamwork. Like, Belmont doesn't come out and say that he's up for teamwork, but he shows every aspect of being a team player. Even this tender moment between him and Jiren that we don't see in the anime, where he says, "You blame yourself for Gichin's death, right? Well, cut it out. Your master wouldn't want to be revived, and you know it." And then he accepts his fate to be erased alongside his team. He is a team player. He's trying to lift Jiren's spirits. At the exact same time, he is ready to go out with the rest of them. He's not begging for his life. He's not doing any of that. He's 100% a team coach. So again, it is not far-fetched to believe that Belmont would absolutely go and be the leader of the Pride Troopers as soon as he is retired. What does that mean for him? How strong is he? Does he revert back to how he was? What does retirement look like if he is the leader of the Pride Troopers? Well, guys, you've been waiting for the answer, and the answer is extremely obvious. And it's something that happens in Dragon Ball Z and in the Moro arc. So let's start with DBZ. So in Dragon Ball Z, the Elder Kai tells us this. A long time ago, there was a terrible bad guy, almost as terrible as Boo, and he sealed me away in that sword. He was scared of me, that's why. But this was retconned slightly by this.
The truth is that he's the one who trapped me inside the Z-Sword. He surprised me. It happened in the blink of an eye.
That's right. The Elder Kai was sealed inside the Z-Sword by Beerus himself. Why did Beerus do it? Akira Toriyama himself had previously made this reveal during a 2014 interview and added further context to Old Kai's account, explaining the true reason behind Beerus' actions. Toriyama noted that all of the Supreme Kais and Gods of Destruction would hold strategy meetings every millennium, and during one such gathering, Beerus and the Old Kai fell out over some trifling situation, since destroying the sacred world of the Kai would have been frowned upon. The hot-tempered Lord Beerus retaliated by trapping the then Supreme Kai in the legendary sword. He traps the Supreme Kai in the sword. Remember, this was his Supreme Kai, and then he gets a new one, which is Shin, the one that we see in DBZ and DBS, ultimately leading to the Elder Kai being released from the Sea Sword in Dragon Ball Z. So the Elder Kai is really the first retired deity that we see in Dragon Ball, at least in Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super. He's retired because he was sealed in the sword. He was sealed in the sword, he was trapped, and then basically they just got a new one. They got somebody else to fill in that job and took away the title from the Elder Kai. When the Elder Kai was released, he didn't have that title anymore. He doesn't have that connection to Beerus. If the Elder Kai dies, which he did in Dragon Ball Z, Beerus doesn't die. That's how you know they don't have that connection anymore. But yet he's still referred to as the Elder Kai, so he kind of just still keeps that moniker. He still keeps the name, but he doesn't have the actual official title of Kai, of Supreme Kai. And I know what you're thinking about his powers and his strength, because the Supreme Kai did get accidentally fused with a evil witch, and a lot of his magical powers, including the power of releasing that inner ability, comes from the magic, comes from his magic. What he did to Gohan, that comes from the witch side. So I know you're thinking, well, how strong is he? Because he seems to really be weak, and he only had that power of the witch after he was released from the Z-Sword. Well, there is another Kai that still has retained his abilities, even though they're not actually with him, and that is the original Grand Kai. Not only is still dormant inside Majin Buu, but his deity powers, the powers that only high-level deities have, they are in Oob, so he still retained everything after being absorbed by Boo, even though he was not the official Grand Supreme Kai anymore. So what does that mean for Beerus? Since we vaguely now know the planet, we vaguely now know that Beerus would more than likely return to what he had been doing beforehand, similar to Belmod, we now know that wherever he goes back to, he will still have God of Destruction abilities and learned abilities that he has. He does not have the God of Destruction name, and I would say that more than likely his God of Destruction powers are not as powerful as they would be with the title, but I would imagine that they're around that ultra ego level. I would imagine that they are at least more powerful than most other beings in the universe. So guys, that's all the information I have on Gods of Destruction's past and just what would happen after Beerus retires, because there really isn't an official explanation and I don't know if we're going to be getting one. So this is as close to a speculation slash theory that I can come up with what the actual outcome of that retirement would be. But let me know if you guys thought of anything that I thought of, and if you guys got it right, let me know. But that's gonna be it, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Subscribe for more content.